Hi, I'm Tara from Wild Bird Farm. I garden here in Zone 5 in central Iowa. This is one of my favorite topics. I was not a big perennials fan when I first started my flower farm, but with the amount of labor that I was putting in to grow annuals each year, I quickly jumped on the perennial bandwagon, especially those that look great in my landscape and can double as greenery in my flower bouquets. Join me today as I talk about 4 easy care perennials that thrive in my Midwest climate. Jumping right in, the first perennial I love to use to double as greenery is sedum. You may be thinking of this pink flower in the photo here that comes in late summer and fall and graces many Midwest gardens. But I'm talking about mostly earlier in the season when the sedum is a bright chartreuse green. I love using this in my mid-season bouquets. I have Autumn Fire and Autumn Joy here. I believe I have this 25-foot row just full of it. I also bought a variety called Night Embers, which is a darker variety. So its stems are going to be a dark purple, which I think will be a great accent in the autumn. When you're searching for sedum, you want to make sure that you're buying tall varieties if you hope to use it in your bouquets. Sedum loves poor soil, it's very drought tolerant, and you can grow it from seed, from plugs, or you can buy it established from a nursery in pots. I've done all of the above. I have started some called Emperor's Wave from seeds, and I've also bought a 50-pack of plugs, and then I've also over the years picked up a couple of nursery pots. So if you're searching for something and maybe don't have the most fertile soil, or maybe you are in a drier area, this plant may be a godsend for you. Second on my list is Baptisia, sometimes called Baptisia. And you may know this for its bluish purple variety, but in recent years, a lot of other colors are coming onto the market. I recently bought this plum and a dark purple variety. I also have a bright yellow, kind of like a canary yellow variety. This year, these will be third-year plants, so I'm hoping to cut off of them. The Baptisia bush will take on an airy, rounded look. I will have third-year plants this year, so it'll really be the first year that I'm really starting to cut off of them to use as greenery. They do have a long taproot, so where you plant them is really where you should leave them. They're not easy to transplant. I bought several varieties as bare root, and those all grew great for me. I would highly recommend that. One of the reasons why I'm also so excited to use Baptisia is I think it looks a lot like eucalyptus. Here's a quick side-by-side comparison. We have eucalyptus on the top and Baptisia on the bottom. Don't they look similar? Our third perennial is Ninebark, and if you're familiar with this plant, I'm sure you love it too. I grow several varieties, including Diablo and Tiny Wine. There are lots of different varieties of Ninebark. Some of the leaves are larger, some are smaller. Some put on white or pink or red flowers. Some of the foliage is a very, very dark burgundy, whereas some is more orange or red. So depending on what you're looking for and what you need, I think there's a Ninebark out there for you. Most of these are grown from either quart or gallon size pots. And I've found that you can use these all season. They're great for early season filler, and then many of the colors go well with autumn pairings in your bouquets. So you can really get creative and use this one all season. These bushes, at least for me in the Midwest, grow very fast, and I would say within 2 to 3 years for sure, you'll have a very large plant that you can freely cut off of. Our fourth perennial is a large bush once established, and it is Forsythia. And to be honest with you, when we moved to our property 10 years ago, there was a gigantic, overgrown, not maintained Forsythia in our front yard, and I sort of hated it. It was pretty for a few weeks in the spring when the little yellow flowers appeared, but otherwise I didn't pay too much attention to it. It wasn't until I started putting bouquets together in the early season on my flower farm that I really looked around and saw Forsythia in a new light. It is absolutely great for green foliage in your bouquets. Throughout the season, when I needed a green pop in my bouquets, I would go out to the big Forsythia bush and cut some greenery. It didn't have any bug damage. It kept a nice green color all summer long, and the stems were more than long enough for bouquets. I loved it so much that I went out and bought a gallon-sized pot for our backyard so I'd have even more to cut in the coming years. One more thing to note, if you live in a cold climate, once you give the Forsythia enough cold hours, you can snip a few branches and bring them in to force those yellow blooms indoors. This is such a fun project when we're desperate for color in February and March. That wraps up my list of 4 today, but I know there is a lot more potential perennials out there that we can use for greenery in our bouquets. If you have another such perennial that you love, will you drop the name in the comments for me? Thanks so much. See you next time, everyone.